Hi, how's everybody? My name's Comey. Welcome to Sunday, October 30th, 2016. Corruption. Um, so I started this show while I was running for U.S. Senate called The Unscrewing of America. And it was a way of taking serious issues that the media isn't covering and breaking it in to something that we could all understand, make fun of it, and not be so heavy. So here it is, 9 days out, 8 days out, depending if you're counting election day. Everything's getting crazier and crazier. Just a week ago, we thought, this is amazing. Hillary Clinton's going to lead and win by 15 points. Now they're just 2 points away. And it has so much to do about the Comey release of opening up the investigation on Hillary Clinton's emails. I have showed you this before, but this is my operations here. I have been doing nothing but reading about these emails and what the hell the FBI is doing, and is Comey able to be trusted, and how is mainstream media spinning this, and what is going on. If nobody has a handle on it, that's for sure. Nobody has a handle on it. So rather than just jump to the usual suspicions, let's just put it in the context that this has to fall under Espionage Act, and there's been military personnel who have been thrown in jail for leaking information, and I happen to know some of these people, but there was, in order to have a felony under the Espionage Act, you have to have three things. Let's see if I could remember them. One is you have to be mismanaging sensitive information. You have to have negligence, and I'm already forgetting the third one because I think I've crammed too hard for this exam, but I'll find it here in a second. But she has officially handled all three of these before the release of what was going on Friday. On Friday, they discovered on Anthony Weiner's server, and you guys know all this, I'm sure, but this just came out today, 650,000 emails that Uma had on her husband, now estranged husband's, laptop of emails that they just got a warrant for a couple of hours ago. So they're going to start going through those emails and to determine if anything on there was illegal. And so that would be gross negligence right there. And then checking with an attorney who graduated Harvard Law School, which doesn't necessarily mean a damn thing, and looking at what he's doing on his tweets and posts about it, it would assume that Hillary is in a lot of doo-doo. So that's one thing. Just the merits of the case. It definitely feels like it's already been taken care of, and there's enough gross negligence to have sensitive documents, and Huma Aberdeen was putting it on. She already swore under oath that she had given up all of the information, and I've written about this on my site in a very lengthy piece, but all of the information is that she had on different devices under oath. She stated that she gave it up. So Hillary is distancing herself from Huma right now. The mainstream media like MSNBC, the New York Times, Washington Post, is making it sound like this is a tempest in a teapot. It's much to do about nothing. That's a bunch of bullshit. This is probably pretty serious. Another dimension that I've tried to research is, does anyone have any faith in Comey? I mean, he was an appointee under Obama. Harry Reid has now sent a note saying that he feels that FBI Director Comey has committed some sort of crime. The Justice Department didn't want Comey to release this information. So it's inside the Beltway. It's politics. It's Washington, D.C. Of course, there's people covering their ass, looking at their egos, whatever it is. If you remember, Bill Clinton got on Loretta Lynch's plane back in July, the day before Comey released the information. That was something that would have never been allowed legally in an ongoing case. So where there's what did George Bush administration say? Smoking gun that leads to a mushroom cloud, right? This is a smoking gun or guns or that are leading to a lot of mushroom clouds. Now, it's easy for me to be biased because I don't care for Hillary Clinton. I think she's corrupt. I think there's a lot of bad things going on, but I also think that this is politics, and I'm having a hard time. But if you just boil it down to the simple pieces, 10 days before an election, an FBI director decided to do something that he would have known. He was an attorney general. He's held political positions before, would have just gone crazy, right? So he didn't do this just as a without thinking about it. And so there's got to be something serious. Now they're saying they don't know what the contents of the emails are, that they only have the metadata. When they realized this all came about because Anthony Weiner's under investigation for sending sexual messages to a 15-year-old in, I believe, North Carolina. So it's crazy. I mean, it's just insane how much is going on with this. And the part that I think you guys all want to hear is when you look at where do you go with this, I think you should be looking at what Glenn Greenwald is saying on the topic on Twitter, what Adam Johnson is saying on this on Twitter, to a certain extent David Serrato, though he's kind of coming out with these mixed messages. Another thing I think that's getting glossed over because there's so much information on this is that this information came out of Assistant FBI Director McCabe, who was looking under the investigation with regards to the potential mismanagement of the Clinton Foundation. So it falls into what they were learning from WikiLeaks. It looks at whether or not this Clinton Foundation was in collusion with Qatar and other countries in order for the pay-to-play. And, you know, the way I kind of look at this is Al Capone was arrested on IRS fraud. All of the shit that he did, all of the crazy things that he did, he went down on IRS fraud, and then he died in jail from syphilis. That's too much information, I know, but you see where I'm going with this, don't you? So we're 9 days out from an election, and Hillary and Donald are real close. I mean, some groups are saying that Hillary and Donald are tied with electoral votes at this point. Some are saying Hillary's just made the 270 mark. Depends where you think Pennsylvania's going to go, probably to Hillary. But there's Utah, and Utah has a very strange race going on between Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, I can't even keep track of it, McMullen, who's an independent, very conservative guy, and then you have Jill and Gary Johnson. Well, this guy who has a background with investment banking firms like Goldman Sachs, who's a conservative, who has a war record, he's almost tied in the polls with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. There's 6 electoral votes in Utah. If he wins that race and takes it away from Donald Trump, Utah could help get Hillary elected. And if Hillary does get elected, there's a very, very good likelihood, because this came out on Thursday, that the House Judicial Committee will start an investigation, because that's what the chair of that committee said. So you're probably going to end up with a Republican House, Republican Senate, a Democratic president, unless in the next week things change drastically. And there will be an investigation both by the FBI and the House, which, if you are old enough to remember, back in, I think it was 1998, Bill Clinton went through impeachment proceedings where the House found him to be impeached and the Senate did not, and you had all weird things come out of that. So what goes around comes around. We don't need FBI investigations, and we don't need a House to realize that Hillary Clinton has brought down the Democratic Party with corruption, in collusion with DNC, in collusion with the media, in collusion with many of the banksters who want her in there. And they want a bifurcated administration with Congress. They want to see Hillary in there with her hands tied. They do not want Donald Trump in there, because they can't control Donald Trump, because he has billions of dollars and he has fuck you money, and they don't know what businessmen, people do not like, is uncertainty. So what I think is important here, what I think is important here for you all progressives is to be thinking about the down ticket races. This is a historic election. And this October surprise is unlike any other October surprise, where Hillary just days ago was looking like she was going to sail in to this coronation for her, and then this came out. And her team is basically trying to throw FBI Director Comey under the bus. And their spin doctors are not working very well on this, if you trust the way I've been studying it all weekend. So what that says to me is a lot of the Republican races are down ticket, are looking a lot stronger than they did a week ago. And so Dems, who thought they were going to look a lot better, now are going to look a lot worse. Let's use Western Colorado, where Gail Schwartz is at. She was supposedly down 5 points in the polls against Tipton, incumbent congressman. She was probably narrowing that and feeling like there was a good possibility. This is going to put a hurt on people like her. This could put a hurt on somebody like Senator Bennett, who's about 15 points up in the polls. But what a great opportunity for Green Party candidates to have stronger connection to the voters who realize that the Republicans and the Democrats are a shit show. Don't you think? Don't you think this is a great opportunity to see if we could get someone in there and get somebody elected? So I think you're going to see a lot of people who are just either not going to vote or say, fuck it, I'm going to vote third party. So if you guys know people who are saying, I'm not going to vote, get them to vote third party. What a great opportunity. If they want to fuck with the system, this is a great opportunity to do that. Let me go on to something that I think is truly much more serious and undercovered. And that is what has been going on in Turkey all summer and into now. So Turkey doesn't get covered. And it's a NATO country. And I've tried to follow this, and I've tried to help get people to understand what's going on. And when I put this on, and it's on my pages, it gets almost no connection to anyone. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more. Why should I pay attention to Turkey? Why does this matter? I mean, yeah, I joke around, put up a lot of memes that people enjoy. Like here's a joke for you. The FBI has to find out what's on Anthony Weiner's laptop. We all know he's got a lot of jism on his laptop, and I feel really sorry for the FBI agents who have to go and touch Anthony Weiner's laptop. Now back to something more serious. Turkey is a NATO country. Turkey has had many coups. Turkey is under a president who was the prime minister, but he got termed out as prime minister, and he won the presidency. His name is Erdogan. 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 So think Putin. Putin was prime minister, then he became president. Okay? Now, what Erdogan is trying to do is he's trying to create something called a constitutional presidency. Another way of thinking of it is he is attached to the Muslim Brotherhood, which was the same people that won in Egypt, where there was a coup in Egypt and Sisi came in power and we back Sisi. So you have a man who has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, who has been corrupt for many, many years, who has now had a coup against him, supposedly, no one knows who, but it was inside middle-level military back in July. I believe it was July 15th. It was on a Friday night. I remember it very well because everybody in the media on foreign policy, the inside baseball people were saying this coup cannot go forward. You know, Erdogan is in a democracy. This is bad. It's probably Gulenist, and Gulen is living in Pennsylvania, and he has had a rivalry with Erdogan. We have 80 nuclear weapons in Turkey. It is where we have an Air Force base. We have had to play with an evil guy, just like we had to do in other areas in the Middle East, in order to do bad things for what we wanted. But this is different. This is a country that since the early 60s, we have had nuclear weapons there. That was what the Russian missile crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis had so much to do with. They wanted to put missiles in Cuba because we had missiles in Turkey. And so what you're finding out, what's going on here, is Erdogan hates the Kurds, and he's been bombing the Kurds for over a year now. We're almost a year to the date of when he took down a Russian military jet right during Thanksgiving week. Turkey shot down a Russian jet in their airspace. They were leaving the airspace. They were like seconds out of the airspace, and they shot it down. So now Putin has been meeting with Erdogan, and they're building a renewed relationship. And Erdogan is saying that America wants to go into World War III with Russia, and he is bombing the Kurds, who we have been trying to help because the Kurds are fighting against ISIS. And supposedly Erdogan is fighting against ISIS, but in reality he's fighting against the Kurds, who are on the northern border of Syria and also in Turkey, right? And keeps going and. And Erdogan has a son that is known to be very corrupt, as like his father, and has been taking black market oil from ISIS and bringing it across the border and selling it. So you have the border between Turkey and Syria that is open. There's a lot of gun running going on. There's a lot of rebels going back and forth. There is, it's very, very difficult to detect. So it's real. So let's keep it simple. Erdogan is playing all sides against the middle. He is concentrating his power. He has gotten rid of 60,000 plus civil servants. He's gotten rid of most of the professors and academics that he didn't want. He's kicked out all of the free press, all of the journalists, and now he's even taken on and gotten rid of the rectors of the university, and he's now in charge of the university. He's fired and gotten rid of attorneys. So what this means is he's going to a very, very sort of old school dictatorship where there is no intelligentsia. There is no free thinking, free thought going on in Turkey. He's in charge, and we're letting him. Joe Biden was just there a month ago, and Joe was basically saying he's a good ally of ours. So the United States is evil, is in bed with evil. Otherwise you think, oh, well, we just have to be with Erdogan because he's so bad. Well, why do we have to be there? Because the Syrian refugees is who he's taking care of, because the EU has given him $6 billion in order to take care of the Syrian refugees, which he's barely doing a very good job with that. I mean, it's fucked. But when I talked to Chris Hedges about this, and I know I sound like a name dropper all the time, but I said, why isn't anyone covering this story? Chris, this is truly an explosive story. And he said, it's too complicated. Journalists don't handle it because it's so complicated. And Hedges was the New York Times foreign correspondent in Yugoslavia and Serbia, and during that crisis and war in the mid 90s. So I just tried to do a very crude job of getting people to think about how serious this is, primarily because we have nukes there, primarily because we're supporting this dictator, so that we know when we're being lied to about how we like to bring democracy to foreign governments, and how we have to arm Ukrainians against Russia, just like how we had to arm the Mujahideen in the 80s under Reagan, which turned into Al-Qaeda. So proxy war against ourselves. That's what's going on there. Let me see some of these comments. I can't see these, sorry, while I'm talking, because I'm old and I need my reading glasses. All right. Another thing to go over quickly is in the next 90 days, and in the next 9 days is I'm sure people are tired. I'm sure people are sick and tired of all the bullshit. It's feeling like, to me, that people have just decided to leave the ballpark. It's the 8th inning and your team is down and you're feeling, fuck it, I'm going home, or whatever it is. If you've ever been to that, look, the Cubs are on and the game is 3-2 Cubs against the Caucasians. We don't want to call them the Indians, so we're going to call them the Caucasians. 3-2 against the Caucasians in the 8th inning. And if the Cubs beat the Caucasians tonight in Chicago, they go back to Cleveland to play in the Caucasian field. And it will be the Caucasians up 3-2. I think. Who cares? It's just fucking baseball. I just watched this shit so that I could seem like I have a life. But with 9 days left, people are tired. People are despondent. They're thinking, what are we going to do? Well, it's real simple. You got to stay in direct action. I could still win this race. And I know that sounds completely delusional. In Colorado, use it as a state case study. Colorado already has 600,000 votes in. That's what it would take for me to win. Early voting is showing that the votes are going to Democrats. But if people under the age of 30 who have yet to vote can be convinced to vote, someone like me who tries to spend so much time stopping ridiculous corrupt wars and educating the public could get elected. It could be historic. Even if we could get, just if we could get the people under 30. So think about that in your state, think about that where you're at, to go to the third party candidate and make sure that it's not a 5% or 2% vote, but that it's a 10, 20, 30, and possibly even a win. Anything is possible. Colorado is an early voting state, a mail early state. That means everybody who is registered to vote has gotten a ballot, and tomorrow is the final day to mail it in. And if you don't have it, you could go down to your county offices and you can get your ballot and you can vote right there and turn it in. Otherwise, you'll have to go on election day, which is a week from this Tuesday. So while you're going into this and you're watching issues like Standing Rock, which is such, it's being covered so much by the real progressives and other great people, so I don't want to get into too much of that other than my heart is with what's going on there. I think that is probably the most important protest movement in decades. And for the people who are going there, my love is with you. It's getting much more dangerous there. There's been people who've been placed in dog kennels. It's something like Nazi Germany now, how they're treating people. They're putting them literally in cages. It's disgusting. And more people are going up there, and it's getting colder. So if you know people who are going up there, see if you could help them and get warm clothes to them that they could take up to people, or tents and camping equipment, etc. You can make donations too. So think about where you're at. My campaign's going to run hard. I had my kids this weekend. They watched me read about FBI agents and stuff like that, and we had some good times. And I'm going to be in a direct action on Tuesday, where Senator Bennett's going to show up at a college campus in Colorado Springs. A group of us, we only have 6 people signed up in order to do a protest against the war. He's also going to be in Boulder on Wednesday, and Fort Collins on Wednesday at universities there. And this is what's kind of pathetic. I've reached out to all of my contacts to see if anybody wants to do a direct action on Wednesday at the 2 university campuses, like the Green Party and other progressives. Nobody's interested. I haven't even gotten somebody sending a note back saying they would try to pass it around. So could look at it like time to fold the cards and go home and just call it a great 3 years of protesting and learning, or you continue going in there. Friday proved to us that there will be mistakes. There will be surprises. You have no idea what's going to happen in the next 9 days of an election. And miracles do happen. And the arc of justice always turns up. So let's stay with the positive. Let's stay with the people who are still fighting in the end here, because we will remember this for the rest of our lives. We will be telling our children, our grandchildren, we will be sharing these stories till the time people are sick and tired of hearing it over and over again. But if you don't have a story, you're silent. And if you're silent, then the endless wars, the dying of innocent people, the breeding of the terrorism, the ongoing environmental destruction is something that you have to consider how you justify it. And most people will just ignore it. They'll rationalize it. They'll have their cognitive dissonance. But now, for those of you who are just joining the parade, it's a great time. We need your energy. We need your enthusiasm. We're blessed to have you come in. So share this with other people. It's been a little dry. It's been a lot of reading, a lot of studying for me this weekend. Plus, I wanted to show that I just don't always act like a punk rock jerk and joke around. I want people to understand what's going on in Turkey. I think this is a very, very critical story. I want people to understand that when you watch Meet the Press this morning, like I did, you watch that Chuck Todd just blew it on so many different levels with regards to the Comey story, because people don't ask the basic question. The basic question is, there's a FBI director who's charged with following through on the law. Some people would say, why didn't he do a better job the first time around? The Democrats were singing him praises a couple months ago. Now they're trying to indict him. Hillary Clinton's press secretary is saying he's more than confident that everything will be worked out. Politics is hide, declare victory, kick the can down the road, lie, and let them prove between now and an election, because they don't have any other option except they've committed gross negligence and they had sensitive material. So she could be charged with a felony, and Uma has lost her immunity that she once had. So there you have it. I'm Arn Menconi. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I do a show called The Unscrewing of America almost every night. Hopefully I'll be on again tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Halloween. It's spooky out there. Talk about the news. Stay focused. Think about one thing and one thing only. There are 60 million people going to sleep tonight in refugee camps. We have so many blessings. We are too blessed to be stressed. Keep fighting. I love you guys. Spread the love. Peace.